Stella had always been different, not in the usual teenage rebellion way. She wasn't afraid of fights, of bruises, of standing alone against the world. At 14, she was already known among the small cluster of kids in her town as untouchable, masculine in demeanor, tough in spirit, unyielding to anyone who tried to push her around. She wasn't delicate, not her. Her hands were strong, her punches precise, her temper sharp. She wore the marks of her independence like medals. A small bruise here, a scuff there, a scowl always ready. Teachers tolerated her. The principal even joked about her like she was a special case of human resilience. Stella was all arms and defiance and laughter that echoed too loudly down hallways. Until the morning she woke up and none of that mattered. She woke with her hand empty. Not injured, not damaged, just absent. 2 fingers gone from her dominant hand. Not cut, not torn. No blood, no wound, only smooth, unbroken skin where the fingers should have been. She held them in her other hand, pale, twitching as if alive, obeying her commands even though they were detached. Her parents nearly fainted. Friends froze in horrified fascination. Teachers could not comprehend the scene. "And Stella," she screamed, a raw, unearthly sound that tore through the house like a knife. The first night she sat at her bedroom desk, staring at the fingers twitching on the table. Metal needles slid through them, sewing tools, pins, anything she could test. There was no pain, only the motion, the grotesque mimicry of life in flesh that no longer belonged to her. Blood seeped occasionally, but it was as if it had no context, a meaningless signal of reality failing to exist as it should. By the next morning, more fingers had gone. Her left hand lost the index, thumb, and ring finger. Doctors called it a medical miracle, a neurological enigma, and an ethical nightmare all at once. But Stella understood. She didn't need tests, x-rays, or specialists. She could feel the disconnection in a way science could never explain. Every limb was no longer hers entirely, yet still part of her, still obeying her. She stopped going to school. She hid from the world. Her friends, the ones who had once sought her out, tried to reach her. But Stella became a museum piece of herself, fragile, unreachable, reconstructed with gloves and makeup to hide the absence beneath. When she finally returned, she wasn't Stella anymore. The dark t-shirts, the shorts, the practical boots, gone. In their place was a pale, frilly dress, puffed sleeves, lace collars. Long gloves covered her arms, hiding seams and joins, and a perfect pink bow crowned her head. She walked with care, as though each step could shatter her entirely. Eyes downcast, hands folded, the tiniest movement deliberate. It was disturbing, yes, but the most disturbing thing was not her appearance. It was her hands. All fingers were visible again, prosthetic or otherwise, unnaturally perfect. Yet the sense of wrongness persisted, like a picture with a tiny detail out of place. Your mind notices it, but you can't describe it. She walked down the hall one afternoon, black boots softly thudding against the linoleum. A friend reached out, gently touched her shoulder. "What happened, Stella?" The touch broke something. Her head tilted back just slightly. Then, in a motion too quick and unnatural, her arm detached, not violently, not bloodily, but cleanly. Like pulling a sleeve from a mannequin, it fell into her friend's hands, twitching, crawling as if it had a mind of its own. He screamed. Stella did not. She looked at him with a fragile, porcelain expression, her face pale, flawless, eyes dark and wide. She reached, picked the arm up, and tried to reattach it. The limb resisted. It did not obey, and yet still it belonged to her. Slowly, the arm crawled up, aligning itself again with her body. She turned, stumbled, and ran down the hall. Her boots thudded, her dress swayed, her gloves glimmered under the fluorescent lights. Then she tripped. Her head, detached from her body, rolled down the hallway like a sinister doll's toy, hair tangling, eyes fixed on some unseen point. The rest of her, torso, legs, remaining arms, vanished into the shadows as she bolted. They found pieces of her later. The investigation was a nightmare stitched in blood and memory. In a forest not far from the town, fragments of her body were scattered like a grotesque puzzle. Torso, limbs, pieces of hand and foot, all crudely sewn together. 13 pieces in total. 19 fingers accounted for, 1 fragment missing. The head remained hidden in her parents' attic, preserved in silence, a final dreadful trophy. Even in pieces she moved. Detached limbs crawled across the ground, torso lifted. Stitched joints flexed and twisted unnaturally. Her head watched. It observed, silent and accusing. It judged, and her body, in patchwork, malformed, unholy, ran, jumped, and disappeared into the woods, leaving only the memory of horror behind. Stella was no longer a girl. She was a doll made flesh, a patchwork of will and terror, a living nightmare sewn together by some force beyond reason. She was fragile yet unstoppable, innocent yet monstrous. The Dollmaker's daughter had been born, stitched from fear, curiosity, and the unyielding grip of a mind that refused to rest. The forest absorbed her. The town whispered her name. The attic held her head, watching, waiting. And somewhere, in the darkness between stitches and sinew, Stella lived on. Not as the girl they loved, not as the friend they remembered, but as a horror sewn into the world, perfect in its wrongness forever.